Good morning. I want to start by saying I wasn't planning on doing this show at this time. I had a different show plan on the same topic. But yesterday I started doing some research and I was shocked at what I found. Yesterday's afternoon show was about 'tis the season, and during this time of the year, we're hearing all the heartbreaking stories from St. Jude's Hospital and Shriners Hospital for Children, and how no family pays, no child pays for treatment. And I was actually about to do a show about where are these hospitals for adults who sometimes have to go to GoFundMe to pay for their cancer treatment, because there's no hospitals like this for adults. Cancer Treatment Centers of America, they ask for your insurance or how much money you have in your bank account, or they won't even let you in the door. But what I found when I started researching, and all I typed in, seriously, was, is St. Jude's Hospital really free? And wow, my computer exploded with information that I think you should be aware of before you give money to any of these non-for-profit hospitals that never charge anybody to pay. Okay? Because I learned something. And if you're going to put your fingers out right now and say, oh, you just hate kids, no, 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 no. No. See, these stories of these kids break my heart. I've donated to St. Jude's. I've donated to Shriners Hospitals for Children. And now I wish I hadn't. Let me just say that. Because when you hear the information that I found by accident, you will be as appalled, I hope, as I am. Okay? Let's start with St. Jude, because they're out there. They're out there all the time. Give thanks for the healthy children in your life and give money for those who are not. First of all, who gets treated at St. Jude? Which cancer patient gets treated? Well, see, now that surprised me right off the bat. We're going to talk money later, but who gets treated is interesting. There's a lot of shit you got to go through to get accepted at St. Jude. First of all, you have to be eligible for a clinical trial they are currently doing. You have to have a cancer that they actually have already treated and had success in curing. Okay? Now, from what I'm hearing, you really don't have to pay if you can't pay. But at the end of the day, when they give all these results that we cure now almost 90% of childhood cancers, that's true. But it also means that if your child has a cancer that they don't treat, they haven't cured, and they don't have a clinical trial for, well, your kid's shit out of luck. They're padding their results, is what I think I have just stumbled across. They pull out all these kids and they put them on the Today Show and they put them in the commercials. These are their success stories. And we don't hear about the ones that they refuse to take, who passed away from their cancers because St. Jude doesn't work on that kind of cancer. Okay? So think about that, and think about this as a parent. I'm not a parent, but if my child had cancer, I'm sorry, I would not want them on the Today Show. I wouldn't want them doing commercials to beg for money for St. Jude, whether I got treatment for free or not. I'm not putting my child with no hair, looking all pale and sick with an oxygen mask on their face, I'm not putting them on national television for any hospital. It's exploiting these kids. That's originally what I was looking up, was with these families who don't pay, do they have to promise to promote St. Jude and then go out and try to get donations? See, this non-for-profit stuff is interesting. It is. Let's talk money. Let's talk about money. This I've got to go to the reading for, the information I found out. Of all the non-for-profit hospitals in our country, the CEO of St. Jude comes in second for the most financial compensation, only behind the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Now, they didn't officially give me the amount the CEO makes, but the Dana-Farber Institute person makes $905,000 a year. It's a lot of money, right, for a nonprofit. And St. Jude's CEO is second, and this year may be getting $1 million. The chair, Thomas Merchant, in 2017, he's listed as a chair of St. Jude, got $1.2 million in compensation. $1.2 million for a guy who isn't even a doctor treating the children. That's something you need to think about before you open your checkbook, right? Okay, let's talk about the Shriners Hospital for Children. You know, I fell in love with Alec. Everybody knows Alec from Shriners Hospital in his little wheelchair. And we watched him grow from a child. And then we saw his voice change in the newest commercial. He's introducing a new patient to Shriners. He's so adorable. We're going to send you this adorable blanket. If lines are busy, call again. And now his voice, he's become a man. I'm not even sure he's a child anymore. But he's still promoting Shriners Hospitals for Children. Well, let's see how much money they make. And again, I didn't get the CEO's salary for Shriners Hospitals for Children. But a gentleman in 2017 named Jeffrey Ackman, who is listed as an orthopedic surgeon, made $1.8 million. That goes in his bank account, not in the hospital's bank account. But again, no child pays at Shriners Hospitals for Children. They run on donations. Well, that's a hell of a lot of donations to pay an orthopedic surgeon $1.8 million, and that's just one dude. This is what really makes me angry. It makes me really angry, and it should make you angry too. The article that I actually read, and it's a legitimate article, this is no onion, this is real, that in fairness to St. Jude and Shriners, nonprofit hospital CEOs' salaries are often extravagant. Why? Why are they extravagant? This makes no sense to me. If you are running, first of all, a non-for-profit hospital, right? And you say you're a research hospital, and you say nobody will pay to come to this hospital, and we live off donations, and by the way, it costs like $2.4 million a day to actually run St. Jude's. How are they able to give the CEO almost $1 million a year? You should ask yourself that question. You should ask yourself the other question of why some children are still dying from cancer all over our country. And yet St. Jude has this amazing cure rate. Kids living 15, 20 years. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because I went on their site. And I pretended I was a parent looking to see if my kid could get into their program. You know what? It's not easy. Your kid has a better chance if they have cancer of getting into the Olympics or the Special Olympics than they do of getting into one of these non-for-profit, nobody pays. We have all these great cure rates hospitals. Your kid has to have the right kind of cancer. Your kid has to be part of a clinical trial. And I have a funny feeling your kid also, and maybe some former St. Jude patients will come to me anonymously, I won't say your name, and say, we also sign a contract, we have to promote the hospital and go out after our kids are cured and ask for donations. This is scary to me because these kids' stories break my heart. I cry every time I see them. But I'm a little more cautious now with my pocketbook, with my checkbook, with my wallet, with my credit card. Because if the CEO of these not-for-profit children's hospitals is making $1 million a year, well, what are the researchers making? What are the doctors making? What is actually spent to cure these kids? I think it's a legitimate question, and I think you should find out, first of all, why your child has been denied access to St. Jude's. Is it because they can't cure your child? And they only want the success stories to come to their hospital? They make it real clear on the application form. Is your child eligible for St. Jude's? And it has nothing to do with money. I'll give them that. If you have insurance, they bill your insurance. Anything the insurance doesn't pay, you don't get a bill. That's legit. But they're only taking cases they know that they can cure. And that, to me, says they're padding their success rates. They're saying we're curing 90% of childhood cancer, but they're not treating all childhood cancer. I think it's something that I just stumbled onto again. This show was supposed to be about where is these nobody pays for adults. Because when an adult gets cancer, let's face it, their family loses the income. If the breadwinner of the family gets diagnosed with serious cancer, that person often loses their job or can't work and has no income. Where are the hospitals that treat adults who support the children by putting food on the table and a roof over their head and clothes on their back? I don't know of any hospital in the United States that tells adults to come on in and you won't get a bill. We'll pay for everything. I know that there are a lot of cancer treatment centers in this country. Fox Chase, Cancer Treatment Centers for America, but they want your money. They're not treating you for free. And in the case of my godmother at Fox Chase, they told her she was part of a clinical trial and they gave her a placebo. They didn't give her the experimental drug she thought she was getting that could make her live longer. They just gave her the same crap she could have gotten in her hometown. And she wouldn't have had to travel 2 hours to Philadelphia 3 times a week for treatment. She didn't get a trial. She got regular chemo she could have gotten over at Lancaster General Hospital, 5 minutes from her house. So adults are treated differently, and nobody wants to see a child suffer and die from cancer. But this false hope, this give us your donations. Well, you know what? I think I'll just hold off for a little bit on donations. I think what I'm going to do is wait and see if a child I love is diagnosed with cancer. If that child that I love gets accepted to St. Jude at no cost to them or their family and is cured, I'll give St. Jude some money for that child that I love and was saved. But if a child I love goes to St. Jude and they say, oops, sorry, we don't treat that kind of cancer, you just better go home and make your preparations, you're going to die. Well, they're not getting any of my money. Again, this is why this show is so unbelievable, because I start out with one idea that I thought it was all set and done, and then I start doing a little research and I find all this stuff out. Now look, I'm not telling any of you not to donate to St. Jude or to Shriners Hospitals for Children or any not-for-profit. But I do want you to remember that at the end of the day, and this is every hospital in America, what Lancaster General Hospital here in Lancaster is not for profit. Many people go in there and don't pay their bills. But their administrators, the people who aren't even doctors and don't treat patients, make a hell of a lot of money. More than the nurses and doctors in some cases. And I'm wondering if this isn't something that we should fight back against as a society. Why should someone sitting in a cushy office who has never practiced medicine in their life, but they have the top floor office in a hospital, make more money than the nurses who care for the patients every single day, than the doctors and the researchers who are actually doing the hard work? Why should a paper shuffler, someone who just does interviews and answers the phone every 5 minutes or every 5 hours, why should they make millions of dollars while those on the front lines who actually deal with patients don't make all that much in comparison? I don't think you can find a nurse in any hospital in America, profit or not for profit, who makes $1.2 million a year, like the CEOs of some of these nonprofits make. And I think it's something we really need to start asking before we take out our checkbooks, before we donate money, and before we even take our children to these hospitals. Because, see, if I'm going to a nonprofit hospital because my child has cancer, I want to make sure that all the money possible is being spent on curing my child, not on the CEO that I'll never meet on the upper floors in his little tower, shuffling papers, not even a doctor, getting 1.2 mil. That's not cool, man. And if any of you think it is cool, well, hey, I'm here. Let me know how cool it is. But not for profit, remember this, never means there is no profit. There are people who work at not-for-profit hospitals and medical centers and cancer treatment centers, and they're profiting from your suffering. Trust me, they're profiting, and they're profiting well. Can you imagine? I can't. Can you imagine making $900,000 a year and not even being a doctor? My God in heaven. You know what would impress me? If that CEO would donate half of his $907,000 a year or $1.2 million a year salary back into the research and the doctors and the care of the patients. That would impress me. Because I'm going to tell you what, maybe I'm just a poor old trailer park trash slob, but I don't know what I would do with $1.2 million a year. I guess I'm just one of those people that doesn't spend money on stupid shit like swimming pools and tennis courts and BMWs and fancy cars and fancy vacations. I don't do that shit. I don't need $1.2 million a year. I don't need it. And I promise you this, the CEOs of these nonprofit hospitals don't need it either. You know who needs $1.2 million? The children and the adults who are suffering from cancer and whose insurance companies say, well, we won't pay for this $4,000 chemotherapy because it's not necessary. We won't pay for the nausea drug to help you get through your chemotherapy because it's not necessary. Just throw up a lot. All the crap that insurance companies refuse to pay for. The fact that farm companies charge $6,000 to $10,000 for one chemo treatment in some people's cases. That's what's outrageous. These people need this treatment. Those CEOs don't need millions of dollars every year to sit in an office at a desk all day. Let me know what you think. You always do, and I appreciate it very much. But I will say this. No child anywhere should die from cancer because their parents have no money or the insurance company is refusing to pay their bills. No American child, anyway. And no American adult should die from cancer because they have no money or their insurance won't pay for it. And no freaking healthy CEO of any company that claims to treat cancer patients at no cost and asks for donations should be making $1.2 million a year. Political Paula, out.